Thank you very much. I'm extremely pleased to introduce our pioneering project, A Short Century, a digital and physical archive and art history resource of the East African Museum of Art, Nairobi, Kenya, in cooperation with Makerere University, Kampala, Uganda. The project is currently funded by EU's Ignite Fund with the British Council and GIBA. So, as Eamon's academic course editor, amazing East African scholarship, which will undoubtedly reshape the ecosystem of global modern and modernist art histories. It is with immense pleasure that I introduce to you artist scholar Mhonyo Maina, who's sitting here next to me, Dominicus Makukula, art historian at the University of Dar es Salaam, online. Maybe you can wave just shortly, Dominicus, we know who you are. And Mifta Seleke, curator and lecturer at the Alice School of Fine Art, Addis Ababa, as well as the art historian Professor George Cheuni from Makerere University. They are joining us online today in the spirit of this collaborative retelling of their findings of East African artistic modernism. Please join me for this taster of our forthcoming online university course and digital knowledge resource. We will be sharing with you some of the exciting new images and narratives detailing the evolution, roots, and the role of modernist art production from the region. You will see glimpses of hitherto unknown art archives and reflect on the little discussed political complexities, previously undocumented cultural heritage, all of which will transcend familiar national borders. And I hope this will expand on the fantastic initiatives that we've been hearing about this afternoon. I think George Cheuni will start his presentation because I think we can hear him. So please, over to you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to present some of the initial findings from our project that has kept us busy for almost half a year. I'm introducing our project of reappraising East African modernism. This modernism emerged as a result of strong-minded individuals, either as art historians or practitioners, prepared their applications to navigate through the challenges of post-independence era with the critical lenses. Their visual reproductions and a display of dexterity, technique, as well as the reflection of what it meant to be an independent African state. The East African modernism, as a group of scholars collectively presenting, has been consistently placed in the brackets by scholars in African art. This should not surprise us, given that from the Makonde tradition in Tanzania and the Swahili coast, which the Dominicans has been out of this past movement, the region of East Africa did not need a rich legacy tradition of figurative art. It's my view that figuration has been judged by the West as the peak of African creativity. But East Africa's cultural inheritance was rather expressed in forms of art, such as the art, pottery, basketry, weaving, storytelling, as well as these legends. The scholars of modern African art have doubted these could drive a strong imagination or an creativity or inspire the African modernism, a stereotype that this project seeks to protest and mystify. The Modernism School, established in 1940, has been the cradle of art education in the region. It produces artists whose reputation transcends regional borders, such as Sambo. Its founder, Margaret Travel, introduced a focus on traditions inherited from the past, skills. In 1958, her successful tour redirected the school as an academic institution with a stress on anatomy, color theory, perspective, and knowledge of the wider world through art history. The combination of these disparate approaches proved to be critical. It enabled diverse post-independent artists like Sam Giro Jefferson Pandit, to articulate the complexities that came with post-independence and settled question of multiple identities. Uganda's post-independence visual activities were particularly dramatic during the 70s under the despotic leader, Marshal Idi Amin. While many artists were forced into exile, those who braved his tyranny reduced art but expressed their repressive visions by taking the subject of prosperity and natural way. Reshaping is reflecting on Amin's symbol of power and authority and inheritance from the colonial leadership. In this painting of the parade, also known as Proud and Essex, Richard grapples with the task of expressing a political statement couched in cultural issues. Amin seized upon these elements to protect his military might and to sustain himself in power. The painting gives colors are open, and the general atmosphere is thick and forbiddingly dark, an allusion to the repressive political movement. The gaze in the eyes of the central figure adds to the general feeling of anxiety and forbidding. Bushiro's Josephine and employs multiple metaphors, which begins with the biblical story of Genesis, translated to figure of life and marked the context of time. Eve is depicted accepting the forbidden fruit from the seductive serpent. There is a diabolical presence of evil in his painting, revealed in the scale or mosaic technique of the painting surface of the entire picture. Painted surface of the entire picture, an imitation of the skin of the serpent, a reference to moral decay and the disintegration that accompanies bad governance. Mother's Nightmare is yet another painting. Lower down, down. There's another, that one. Mother's Nightmare is yet another painting by the same artist, a frightening image of an evil regime probably have its children. Francis Nagenda, on the other hand, used his monumental sculptures to not only criticize the corrupt leaders, but also put hope. Nagenda is further down. That one. That's Nagenda, his war victim. Nagenda exists an emotional reaction springing from the critical analysis of society as the disease of war, disease, hypocrisy, and corruption. What victim, as you can see there, is a robust amputated mutilate body standing on one leg, first recreated in sculpture, infused with deep spirituality. What victim lives from the ground is such energy, vitality. The meaning in war victim is further amplified by the fact that the became tree from which this capital was carved was of botanical significance, protected by the university in the compound of Makerere Art School. Yet, it silently witnessed destruction when the rubbish was repeatedly burned at its foot by the very people who were expected to be its custodians. When the tree collapsed to the ground, Nagenda carved it. Soon after capturing power in 1971, amid its failed visions, plunging the country into an economic crisis. Asians controlled the bulk of business enterprises. Scarce of imported materials followed, forcing artists to explore other options. In its scrutiny, Nagenda uses familiar objects arranged from trash in an unfamiliar way. The result is an unsettling presence of an image that expands our imagination and directs our attention to thinking about our lives from a fresh perspective. Brutal and repressive finishing, Amin's regime ironically helped artists to innovate and improvise amid these capacities. In the same measure, indigenous knowledge was revisited and reconsidered in the wake of universities. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, George. That was a wonderful presentation. We work collaboratively, so there's more to come. So we're going to move on to Dominicus, who is in Tanzania and who will be telling us about his new findings in fieldwork and the amazing new reappraisal of how modernism in Tanzania should be read.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Bea, for the introduction. And as introduced, my name is Dominicus. I am from Tanzania, and I'm working in the University of Dar es Salaam here. So I'm participating in this project as among the researchers who is covering the Tanzania area or region within East Africa. In Tanzania, modern art origins and the meanings do not really deviate much from those in other parts of Africa, as described by many leading scholars in different publications. The advent and stylistic characteristics of modern art in Tanzania reflect the influences such as traditional life, the traditional beliefs, but also influences of Islamization and Christianization from the 9th century onwards. But in the later years, you can see how also the British indirect rule system, which began immediately after the fall from the Germans after the First World War, were also among the influences of the development of modern art in Tanzania. Furthermore, you can see that also the type of education systems that were introduced in that area also had some kind of influence to the nature of the arts that were developed in Tanzania. But among the most factors that we consider to be very strong in the development of visual arts in Tanzania is the independence of Tanzania itself, in which it was known as Tanganyika in 1961 when it acquired its independence. But later on, we became Tanzania after we united with, the Zanzibar Islands before the United Republic of Tanzania. So, a lot of factors can be connected there, but these, what I've mentioned, can be considered as among the main factors that influenced modern art development in Tanzania. And slightly, but somehow very strong, is, Tanzania's ideological experimentation from 1967 following the Arusha Declaration and the country's adoption of socialist policy, which were known as Ujamaa here in Tanzania. Ujamaa is also known as family wood brother. Following this adoption, also economic crises of 1980s, they also measure or come together to forge or to form or to shape Tanzania's artistic creations and endeavors that we saw later. Thus, Tanzania's modern art consists of creative works of art reflecting extreme freedoms of expression of individual artists as well as traditional values which have been hybridized and synthesized by adopting global artistic techniques, combining these techniques and foreign media to produce and promote locally relevant art. With these factors and these narratives, you can see clearly that there is a very strong root of modern art in Tanzania as a country. Apart from those factors that we have most and frequently read that favors foreign factors than the local roots that have been not properly looked at and analyzed, but given the opportunity in this time, I have taken the opportunity to visit different places in Tanzania just to establish these factors that favor regions of modern art in Tanzania. Nonetheless, as already pointed in my opening statements, Tanzania's modern art is not a copy of the creative world practices and perspectives of the new lives and ideas provided by the technological advances of the industrial age that caused modern society to manifest itself in new ways compared to the past. But modern art in Tanzania is a product of both evolved and borrowed, evolved and borrowed civilizations. In one way or another, this art was also inspired with interactions with the outside world, which began almost in the 17th and 18th century. So, as well as cultural change and fusion engendered by globalism, you can see that Tanzanian modern art is picking up. So the aforementioned factors, apart from colonial education, reinforces local groups of modern art and its origin in Tanzania. My initial analysis in this research, in the foregoing research, shows that southern parts of Tanzania, dominated by the Wamakonde, the Wayao, and the Wamatengo, have longest history of modern art practices, with the Makonde carvings and the Wayao carvings and drawings as leading examples. So you can join me looking at some of the examples of the works of art that were produced by 3 modern artists whom I have branded to be autodidact modernists in Tanzania. These are George Lelanga, Yakobo Sangwani, and Saidi Tingatinga. When looking at these 2 images here, you can clearly see that Lelanga, who is originally a Makonde artist, transforming from the media which we know, transforming this practice from the media which is popularly known well over to these prints, the litho cards. And when you look on my right here or on your right, is cement like tuko and relief, high relief structure with some red ochre paint on it. You can clearly see that these artists was evolving from a traditional art of carving wood, ebon wood, to new media. You see? So new media of art production here is regarded as a factor that determines modernism among the artists, practitioners in Tanzania. The other artist who is also adopting the same trend is Yakobo Sangwani. You can see Sangwani here. Sangwani is a master appointed carer who introduced the Ujamaa call, or the Ujamaa family call. It's a very, very famous piece called Well. It assumes a modern style in its presentation. But Sangwani also changed his practice by adopting a new media of production, which is a cement and sometimes stone. You can see here a piece of carving on stone or a cement-made stone, which is not normal nowadays. If you ask anyone where this art comes from, they can tell you it comes from anywhere in the world. But to be frank with you, it comes from Wemabone. And you can't imagine this work was produced in 1969. That is, following some hassles and some strikes with the government, in which the government, a few years before invented this style or adopted this media, the government took Sangwani's invention for its own propaganda and promotion of the arts in Tanzania. So this is an example of shifts from traditional art to modern art, which is not clearly looked in those media publications, but Iman has given us the opportunity of researching and presenting this. Next slide, please. So this is very common now. We are going back to Lelanga, who was a very also strong Makonde sculptor. But you can see here he introduced this style of painting. It's called Mashikan. In his transformation, Lelanga started painting his carvings, which is very unusual among the Makondes who are carving in all ebony, finishing very smoothly, sometimes polishing their pieces. But this piece produced around 1968 to 1975 is among the pieces that introduced Lelanga as a modernist. Look at the stylistic shift which we see here. Lelanga has changed. Apart from the media now is changing from the stylistic composition of his works. He has adopted painting. And see how vibrant his works are. And you can see that the work shows very limited skills in application of colors, the way you see in those who are went through formal art education in the Makerere back in the time, such as Chiro, who was introduced by my colleague here, George Keyune, but also discussed by another colleague from Kenya, Muni Waina. So you can see the Lelanga here is adopting a way of doing art which is very special, very different. But another very interesting story about modernism in Tanzania is the shift of patronage system as well as social function of the art, which is presented by Edward Said Tingatinga. Edward Said Tingatinga is assumed to be a contemporary artist, but within the research we realized that Tingatinga's practice is formed by the tradition of paintings which are very, very old, located or found in his home village of Matemanga within Tunduru district in the southern parts of Tanzania. You know, a German anthropologist, Karl Weiler, in the year 1903, introduced the stylistic, painting, wall painting. He records the stylistic painting of murals on the huts in these areas in his research. Salim Mark, another German, artist and anthropologist, introduced the same thing in 2020 when he visited Karl Weiler's material and saw that the type of art that Tingatinga was doing was borrowed from the traditions which were long practiced by women among women in Tunduru district in Tanzania, where they decorated a newly wedded couple house by, depicting the pictures of very nice, things, objects, animals, and people. For example, this, painting by Tingatinga called the pangolin. Pangolin is among, very important animals in the Wayao folklore and the traditions. Pangolins are considered as the future tellers, the true sayers. So when a pangolin is painted in the house, they honor, a pangolin and the traditions that makes them and their civilizations. So Tingatinga is among those who emerge as modernists in Tanganyika or in Tanzania with the way he is presenting his art in the new forms. He has moved it from the wall paintings to the canvases and masonite walls. And apart from using the red ochre and the sweet red from charcoal, he adopted bicycle paints, though cheap but advanced medium of art in the practice of art in Tanzania. So the elements that show these 3 or 4 autodidactic modernists in Tanzania as modern artists, the first one is their change in social functions of the art that they produced. They took it from the ritual and spiritual, activities in the societies to just art or art that in which people can enjoy it beyond their ritual and spiritual confinements. And again, the adoption of new media of art production is another strong point that gives me a new perspective of looking at modern art in Tanzania, in which 3 artists show the same characteristic in their adoption. But also the change in the patronage system. Previously, in the traditional art production, people were producing art to serve only their immediate community, and it was purposely produced to serve a particular function, be it religious or social. But they took it beyond those confines and make it a global experience in which everyone can share, enjoy, and just to learn from the others. Last but not least is the stylistic change. We just look at how these 3 artists have changed by this representation of their art. It's amazing, it's wonderful, it keeps you wondering what was happening down there, and that was not covered properly since the time art has been discovered or published in Tanzania. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dominicus. We have lots of richness of material, so Muhunyo next, and Mifta will wrap up. We appreciate your patience of being with us. We have an immense and new art history to present.
Thank you, Bear. As Bear said, I'm the senior researcher for the Kenya section. So if we go to the first slide, here we have a picture of Elimu Njau. This photo was taken in 1959, and in the picture he's painting a mural depicting the Nativity in Ektakara paint. Now, this is one of 5 murals which he painted at the Anglican Cathedral of St. James and All Martyrs Church in Murang'a, which is in central Kenya. Elimu Njau refused to be paid for this work on the grounds that his talent was a gift from God, which he used to pay him back in return. Njau, as some of you may know, is the foremost of one of Kenya's foremost modernists, early modernists in the early 20th century. This school includes Gregory Maloba, Asaf Mng'ethe, and Edward Jenga. Their practice began at the height of the independence struggle in in the 1950s. The Marama murals themselves were commissioned to honor the indigenous Christian civilians who lost their lives in the Mau Rebellion. This is just to introduce some of the complexity with Kenya's early modernist history. All of the three artists I've mentioned were devout, practicing, and professing Christians at the end of the colonial era. Now, they and their practice have come under some scrutiny, perhaps for perpetuating a colonial gaze or Eurocentric gaze, but I think a more sophisticated reading of their practice is that they were trying to forge an independent post-colonial identity, which drew on multiple worldviews in order to narrate and critique the lives of modern Kenyans in the 20th century. So if we go to slide 6, figure 6, Ilimoja's Marama murals depict important New Testament narratives in an indigenous setting. The landscapes are based off the topography of central Kenya. For example, when you see this slide here, this is the baptism of Jesus by Ilimoja. However, you'll notice that Jesus is not being baptized in the River Jordan, but in the basin of Shania waterfalls. Now, the Shania River is a very central river to the Kikuyu people who live in central Kenya. It's a border marker, as well as a major source of water for an agricultural population. These people are the congregants of the church which houses Ilimoja's murals. It's important to understand that after the Second World War, Kenyan modernists amalgamated techniques, motifs, and aesthetic methodologies from East Africa and from international styles in order to fundamentally tell an East African story. Asaf Ngene, for example, one of Kenya's first professional painters, painted in an expressionist mode which was fostered by Margaret Trowell at her school in Makerere University, the first art school in East Africa. However, his works depict the struggles and afflictions of the majority poor, underpaid, marginalized urban dwellers seeking work in and around Nairobi, as well as their disenfranchised relatives who lived in the rural areas. So the next slides should depict works by Kenyan sculptor Gregory Maloba, who was deeply inspired by his Catholic faith, specifically Catholic iconography, which he was introduced to as a young child at a Catholic mission. As well as this, he was inspired by Western modernist sculptors like Jeffrey Epstein, which is the next, well, there it is.
Jacob Epstein, not Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, yes. Thank you for that correction. Yes, thank you for that correction. It's what you call a Freudian symptom. Maloba in turn utilized an iconographic aesthetic approach in these large casts and sculptures, such as the National Independence Monument in Kampala, which you can see in the next slide. As well as this, he utilized avant-garde techniques like surrealism in his smaller, earlier sculptures such as Death, which is currently in the Uganda National Museum. This was inspired by the funeral traditions of his local Luhya tribe, which is a community in Western Kenya which he belongs to. So Kenyan modernists, to be specific, drew from indigenous aesthetic methodologies, techniques, and worldviews in their practice. An example of this is the renowned sculptor Elkanah Wangesa, he sculpts in soapstone. This soapstone which he sculpts in has been in his clan and in his family for hundreds of thousands of years. And they have used the same mediums and the same techniques continually for time immemorial. However, his work explores traditionally modernist themes of identity, belonging, and the role of community and communal heritage in modern life. The fundamental aim of this course is to adopt a new critical lens to explore the work of early modernists in Kenya, one which privileges the aesthetic and conceptual methodologies, experiences, and worldviews of the artists themselves as the first basis for further inquiry. Thank you.
I'm very happy to now introduce Mifta Zeleke from Ethiopia. So we're really fast moving across different regions. And he will present his view on Ethiopian art, expanding on views of known scholars. And he will also bring to conclusion our course's aims. Thank you.
Thank you, Bea. Thank you all. So my presentation will focus on three main thresholds that show the history and evolution of Ethiopia's art modernism. We will first take a look at the role of long-standing tradition of making art in every society to be art and visual art. As you can see, Christian is evident on the walls of Ethiopian Orthodox and Bible churches, as well as through the use of ritualistic objects and images and symbols of ancient scripts. Priestess who used who were trained in the church to make one paintings were also used to be commissioned by emperors, kings, and the nobility since the medieval periods. The priestess who make these devotional paintings of the churches are known as sculptors. They are also the ones who produce how it enacted the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible Church's doctrine. This tradition almost gave birth to a genre called Islam art, which, because the spiritual power feeling was feared by many, that consequently made it remain hidden or unknown from African practices in Ethiopia. Only until the 1980s, when two pioneers that were looking and the previous image of promoting who themselves used to work in the independently make ensure it's also. However, it was only since early 2000 that this Islam art be part of modern and contemporary artistic practices in Ethiopia. And this is with the efforts of various patrons, and but mainly through the vigorous and relentless efforts of Hamza, who introduced Islam art to the younger generation. Now we're having so many stylistic, differences in Ethiopian in the Islam art. On the other hand, as you can see, these priestess mentored by the church, they were also working and living in and around palaces in the mid-19th century. These sculptors evolved to be artists and began to produce works focused on folkloric style or Ethiopian traditional art in Egypt, and was even practiced by graduates of the present-day School of Fine Art Design or the then Design Fine Art Course in the 1970s. Another landmark shaped Ethiopia's modernism is the historical relation that Ethiopia had with the of colonialism. Since the mid-19th century, Ethiopian first set out a need to modernize the country in adapting technological aspects of modernism. And after the remarkable battle of Adwa in which Ethiopians defeated colonial Italy, one such effort was sending scholars to Europe for education in various fields of study. And this was started by Emperor Benedict II, which was continued by the last Emperor Haile Selassie I, and most of the modernists in this research project they can be referred as a result of this continued effort. So at this slide, architectural developers were all initiative that started along the same line. So since the late 1950s, dedicated to receiving power from exile, the government of Haile Selassie I began consciously use of the art and architecturally for developing grander narratives of the nation state. So a very famous work known as Map Ethiopia, and this slide, please. The emperor, another is known work by architecturally depicting, the emperor's vision and advocacy, for the independence of Africa. Our work here is that emperor commissioned for architecturally for for a while at the ECA and as well as in the stamp. But however, near to Professor Lasse's regime, artists like Gabriel Christos Testa, and next slide please, artists like Gabriel Christos Testa and his student Richard Brenner were also reflecting on the critical issues of their time, like on the disaster framing of the 1973. Last but not least, the establishment of the present-day Alice School of Finance and Design was another phenomenon that shaped the art modernism in Ethiopia. The first few vice officers who also studied under the Protestant and Skandal Protosyan were key in adapting and formulating design on medicine tradition that relates to the long-standing tradition of making art using modern techniques and methods. Next slide, please. So we see the works of Gabriel Geta, and Wassily Kostrov, who were the students of these pioneers, Gabriel Christos and school. And the school is, teaching was revolutionized, focusing on formalist skill-based thinking. And this was spearheaded by artists like Tamerlan, Boshu, Adesina Mecha. Now coming to the socialist period, we see the works of different artists. Next slide, please. The modernists used to work supporting, the nation state or the advocacy of Emperor Haile Selassie, the first vision to modernize the country. They were even forced, to make works that revolve. The 1974 revolution is also a main trajectory in the art modernism of Ethiopia, in subverting the modernist art movement by forcing artists to make art that resonates with the revolution and the propagandic ideologies of military junta. Next slide, please. So this period is also prominent in integrating the school's tradition of teaching as a result of the tie Ethiopia had with the USSR in the field of scholarship. After the overthrow of the Derg in 1991, and as a result of the end of the Cold War, by continued scholarship with the USSR, a new avant-garde towards the approach to making a movie about art also began to evolve. I don't see the slides moving, please, but we are close to the end of the presentation. So the shift was backed by various instruments that emerged since the early 1990s, especially Dimension Group, by 9 modern contemporary artists, was very prominent in the revolutionizing or in the evolution of modern art in Ethiopia. So this is all about the part that I have been working on the Ethiopian side. But speaking generally about the significance of this project to the art discourse of the continent is prominent, I would say, because primarily Eastern African art has alienated a lot from the modern art discourse in Africa, and additionally, most of these Eastern African countries, we don't know our histories that really brings us, binds us. You have seen on all of the presentations, the socialist period after independence, was on dictatorial periods, is something that really makes commonalities among of these countries, as well as the long-standing tradition of making art in Ethiopia and in Kenya, as well as Uganda and Tanzania. So I would say this is a very important component project in producing the missing link under this Pan-African modernism. Most importantly, it would enable contemporary artists, younger generation of artists, to look back to their history and how modern art evolved in their respective countries as well as in the region. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miftah. Thank you all for listening to this short talk. You can see there is more to come, and this is a very exciting project which will hopefully continue for a long time. If there are any questions from the audience, I'm sure you have an overwhelming amount of information. Please do not hesitate to ask. I think our authors and scholars are still online if you want to reach them.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to ask about the afterlife of this project, and can you speak a bit more about what's going to happen next, particularly with the museum?
Over to Maria. Maria Amelina is the driving force behind all the lobbying and the passion that went into the foundation of this project. So I'm just going to give over to Maria. She can explain it best because she's been there from the beginning.
Thank you very much, Bea, and thank you all the authors for their amazing, succinct presentation of the universe of artwork that they're uncovering. My name is Maria Amel, and I'm a co-director of the project called Iman, Eastern African Museum of Art, Nairobi, together with Professor, now Ambassador Bitangi Ndemo, and other prominent Kenyan members of the initial founding group. The idea of this project is developed as a university level course. What was given here is a sneak preview of the course that is being developed. Now that the course is produced, there are many units produced by the same wonderful authors. Kenyan company Belva Digital is putting it online on Iman platform, and this course will be available for students from all the countries to see, to learn, and to include in the curriculum. We will be piloting it now in a limited number of schools, higher level educational establishments in Eastern Africa and globally. So if your institutions are interested in being a pilot for this course, together with our professors and professors from your university, this is a possibility. And of course, there will be two kind of doors into this exhibition. One will be a course, and another will be a gallery type experience that will show the artworks and, of course, the bios of the authors, the context, the relevant exhibitions that happened during the short century, to use the term about Nigerian modernism, that would really show the wealth of this work as a connected art trend and moment in art history that is not known. Thank you very much.
Do we have any further questions from the audience? Anything of interest? If not, you have got our info thing. Could you just flash that up again? The way to reach us. If there are any questions coming after this vast information has germinated, please email us on the on the email address that we have for Iman, or alternatively WhatsApp us on the number that's given there. And we're very happy to reach out to authors to answer any specific questions, or if you want to know about the project in general, please just reach out to us and the entire team. Thank you.
With that, I'd like to thank this panel and close the 2024 African Art in Venice Forum. Thank you so much for being here with us today.